What is going on, y'all? Welcome to So I Did a Thing. My name is Chris Hennessy, where I just have cool conversations with cool people who are doing cool things. And speaking of cool things, I'm on Facebook for the very first time tonight, kind of branching out and expanding and seeing what I can do over there. So kind of excited. If you are watching on Facebook, please drop a comment so I know you're here. Same thing if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube. And I see we have Andrew Bennett is here. Julie is here on YouTube. Hi, Julie. Kelly has her snack. I actually don't have a snack tonight. I tend to say bring a snack, but I don't snack while I'm live because it's kind of hard to have a conversation if you got a mouthful of food. So a little bit about me. I work in the electronics recycling industry by day, and then by night I do live stream production and branching into some new exciting stuff is coming, y'all. Branching into like some social media management where it's a done for you and with you, but mostly for you kind of deal where it's going to be the full meal deal, y'all. Like based on live streaming. And then from that, just basically flood the social media ecosystem with clips and posts and stuff like that. I've teamed up with Amy Leanne Wills. She's a whiz at digital marketing. To make this happen. She's a lot smarter in that area than I am. So I think together we're going to make a good team and get the word out there for all of you people that are looking to maximize your time, your investment of time, and reach as many places as possible. So anyway, I'm excited about that. That's coming really, really soon. My guest tonight is like one day he wasn't there, and then the next day he was in everybody's comments. Like it was crazy. Brian was all over the place. And we'll talk about this, but there was no expectation of anything from anybody in return. It was just him wanting to support and help people and form relationships and network and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of led him into doing some really cool things. So I'm going to let him talk about it, though. Y'all help me welcome Brian Sagray. What's up, dude?
How's it going, man? Thanks so much for having me on. This is awesome. It's been way overdue. I think you and I chopped it up one time with a couple other of our buddies a few months back. Yep. But this is great. Yeah, it's awesome to be here and share with your audience. And yeah, I will say that your sentiments are not unfounded. Most people, when they meet me, they're like, okay, so he is real. He's not a bot.
Right. Hey, speaking of bots, man, people, LinkedIn, I don't know if you know Kenny D or not, Kenneth Dunner Jr., he's watching on Twitch. LinkedIn thought he was a bot because he was doing all that commenting and stuff on everybody's post. And they suspended him for a while because of that. It was crazy.
No, I remember when he got suspended, he ended up reaching out to me when he got back on. We were chatting in the DMs like we always do. Kenny, I know him by Kenny D, but we were
Kenny D. Yep.
Yeah, we're pretty close, and he's got a special place in my heart being over there at MD Anderson.
For sure.
They worked on my dad for a long time, and that's a good place there. So, yeah.
Yeah, he is over at MD Anderson. Hey, we are live on Facebook. Look at that. They let me in.
Good, man.
Be dang.
Congrats.
Yeah. Hi, Holly. Thanks for dropping in. She's usually the one person that watches me on Twitch, but Kenny D was over there tonight. So now I have two. Woo.
There you go.
So just tell us, man, a little bit about why you got, we were talking backstage, you've been on LinkedIn since early 2000s, but like what really prompted you to go all in on it a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's true. So, like most people probably, I was like, college counselor was like, hey, get on LinkedIn, make a profile. I said, okay, great. So I did that back in like the early 2000s and then never touched it again until like 2019. 2019, I don't know what it was. I decided to like give social media a try again. When I was still practicing as a surgeon, I was really careful with social media because, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all heard the horror stories out there about, some lawyer, some doctor, gets eviscerated because someone throws up a photo of some old keg stand from some college party, right? So it's like
Right.
I didn't want to have anything to do with that. So I kind of disappeared. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, it was really nice taking that break. But yeah, when I came back, I really got consistent probably in like late 2021, posting every day. And what did it for me was after I walked away from my career, took over the family business, and then after my dad passed away, and then helped run the business until we sold it, after I did that, basically, I had for the first time in my life like 6 months where I decided to take 6 months off and just like live life, catch my breath, and figure out what I wanted to do next. And basically,
Hmm.
after 6 months of really doing whole lot of nothing, my wife said, "Find something to do or get out of the house." Right, is what she basically told me. Um, and so I had a really close friend of mine that was like, dude, you should check out LinkedIn. I think like you could really do something there, impactful, and maybe just share your story. And I came here and I remember like just putting a post out there and wondering like what was going to happen. And
Yeah.
I will say like the last 2.5 years have just been like a whirlwind of a roller coaster. I like to tell people I use LinkedIn. I really write for myself, but I use it as like a public journal. And I just have thought about it
Hmm.
that way since the beginning. And I put it out there and I just see what happens.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. I love it. I think that's why you've resonated with people and why you've grown like you have. Um, because you're just honest about it. Like there wasn't really anything to your motives. You weren't pitching anything. You weren't selling anything. You were just sharing your thoughts and just seeing what happened, and it resonated because
Right.
you
Exactly.
weren't pitching anybody. You weren't there to sell. You were just here to hang out.
Exactly. And I think, when I finally had a really close friend of mine who's also has a really big presence on LinkedIn, he kind of came to me and he said, "Hey man, look, I really think that you could monetize what you're doing." And I thought to myself, "Ooh, I don't really like that." And he goes, "Well, think about it this way." He goes, "What have you been doing this entire time that you've been here for the last 2 years?" And I said, "I don't know, just telling people who I am." And he goes, "No, you've been building a brand and a business this
Hmm.
entire time." He goes, "This is the new, like, real deal marketing that's going to be like the next big thing." And I was like, "Really? You think so?" And so I just basically told people, like, I can help you, right? Like, if you're struggling with
Hmm.
this, like, if you're this high performer that has this success and doesn't have fulfillment, like, I've been there, I've lived it many times. Like, just look me up, right? And it was just, no strings attached still, but just I finally made my ask. And I think because I was here for so long not doing that, people,
Hmm.
I had built that trust, right? They had said, okay, like this is someone who clearly is here now to help people. He's not just here pitching right away. And I
Hmm.
think that was what gave me an added advantage. I mean, I'm not saying you
Sure.
can't hear I mean, I'm not saying you can't come here and pitch successfully immediately, but I would say, just like anything in life, like you're not going to walk into, the car dealership. I mean, maybe they use car a lot. No, I'm just teasing. But you're not going to walk into like, you're not going to walk in somewhere and the first thing you have with someone is, "Hey, I got a great deal. You want to buy?" I mean, most people, and that just doesn't happen, right? So why do that here?
Right. Right. For sure. 100%. Um, that's it's kind of similar, but kind of not. I showed up here thinking I was going to get some leads and find people that wanted to recycle electronics and do some ITAD stuff and all that. Found out real quick I got bored with that because that is such a specialized, like you have to be hitting the right people. And a lot of times, IT directors at schools and corporations, they're not hanging out on LinkedIn. So I got bored with it and I started posting for fun, built a brand, discovered live streaming, and then just kind of took off from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that's the one thing about here that I think is really unique, and that's that I've never been, and I haven't been on social media, like I said earlier, in a while. But the one thing that is truly incredible about LinkedIn is, I mean, I had been here for probably, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks. And one of the posts that I made, a guy that's here on LinkedIn that's, got a really big presence, Darren McKee. Most people here probably know who he is. Um, this is a guy who had grown up in Texas like I did. We had tons of stuff in common. Actually, turns out we had mutual high school friends. But
Oh,
this
wow.
guy rent this guy, yeah, it's crazy. He actually married a really good friend of mine. So he didn't, but his closest childhood friend married a friend of mine from my high school. True story. And what was really weird is that this guy who I didn't even know, I had like one follower at my time, was my wife. Okay. And this guy who literally, and this guy who back then probably had 25 or 30,000 followers, which is what I have now, he shoots me, he comments on my post. Next thing you know, I reach out to him to connect. We're in the DMs, and literally within like 2 or 3 days, we're talking on the phone, and now our families have met. We've traveled together, right? Like we talk on the phone almost every day. And it's not just with him. Like he's my closest friend, but I'm talking about like this has happened with me and like dozens of people
Yeah.
here on LinkedIn. You know, we hosted an event. You know, you know about this. Me and Mitch and a bunch of people. We hosted an event back in October. When was it? April in Salt Lake
Mm-hmm.
City, and we had 400 people from LinkedIn that met at this event. Right, just
Oh,
because we
wow.
posted this. Yeah, it was 400 people from LinkedIn, and it's like incredible the power of this platform. And so I think that anybody who is not tapping into LinkedIn, it's the best time to start, you know, was yesterday, and the next best time is today, because
Right.
everybody knows. I mean, everybody knows there's a billion people here, but like 1 to 3% of the people are active.
Right. So you've got a better chance of hitting someone.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge chance. I mean, and yeah, like if you're on other social media platforms, I get it, right? Like people tell me all the time, hey, like if you posted some of this content on Instagram or YouTube Shorts, you know, like you would have hundreds of thousands of impressions or millions of impressions per post instead of tens of thousands or 100,000. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but the difference is that here it feels more like, you know, a close, tight knit community where, like I said, these people have become friends. And I think
You
for
would have
me,
hundreds of thousands of impressions.
those are the people you can sell to, right? The people that are, you know, those are the people that you build trust with. Those are the people that are going to buy from you, the people that you're truly have built a relationship with.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I was testing the comments on Facebook to see if they're gonna.
Are they working there?
Well, maybe it hadn't come over to Restream yet, so I don't know. We'll
I
see.
mean, we know the LinkedIn comments have been junk lately.
Yeah, man. I may have to do some. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. This is just the first time I've gone
Oh,
live on Facebook, so I'm trying to figure this out. There may
no,
be
not at all.
something in the
No,
settings that it's not letting it populate. Okay.
no apologies needed, man. I'm glad we're learning together, because I'm a constant work in progress. So
All right. Yeah, the video loaded for me, Julie, but I commented on it and it hadn't showed up in Restream yet. So I'm gonna have to dig around in the settings to make sure there's not some sort of weird deal that doesn't let them talk to each other. So how did that lead? Like, when did you make the shift to, okay, I'm here to have fun and network and get to know people, to starting a business?
I would say, like, let me think here, man. I think it's been 10 months ago that I
Okay.
made the pivot, and it really was like very, how do I put this? It was really like, okay, so it was intentional and it was purposeful, but what it was is I was sitting around a campfire actually with some buddies that you and I both know mutually. And I was sitting around a campfire in Arizona, and literally, like out of the blue, these couple of buddies of mine were like, man, when you were an athlete, you know, and when you were a residency director, when you were the professor, they're like, you've been mentoring and coaching people your entire life, and
Mm-hmm.
you've been loving this, but you just haven't been getting paid for it. They're like, why not put this out there and just see what happens, right? Just hang the shingle out there. And I said, you know what? Look, I've had a lot bigger failures in my life. At least on social media, the only thing between me and Chris Hennessy is a screen, right? There's no like, so,
Right.
so if something goes wrong and I just have to fade off into the sunset, I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just went for it, man. And I'll tell you what, to anyone out there who is contemplating trying something like that, no matter what the industry is, think about the barriers to entry nowadays compared to like when my father or your grandfather maybe went into business, when you had to have a physical building, you had to have, you know, vans or trucks and inventory and
Mm-hmm.
merchandise, and there was no social media. You had to print stuff out, put it in the newspaper, put it on billboards. You had to do all this stuff. Nowadays, like my operating costs, it's like I have LinkedIn Premium, I have QuickBooks, and I have a Stripe account, and I just send it. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Right.
so that's the thing. It's like you don't, and look, so many things that we do fail, right? It's like Thomas Edison was like, I tried something 10,000 times, and then the
Mm-hmm.
10,001th time I succeeded. So if you fail, try again, pivot, try something different, because worst case scenario is you lost out on like a $29 a month QuickBooks account. Well, big deal. It's not like
Right.
it's not like when my dad went into business and he had to take out a multi-million-dollar loan and build a huge warehouse and buy all kinds of trucks and stock his office with all kinds of stuff. And if he failed, he was going down with the ship, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that, and it's not to say that you don't have to work hard and be dedicated and be disciplined. That's not the message. The message is just that the barrier for entry is so low, and there's so many people in the world, and the ability to connect with people worldwide. I mean, I have clients like in multiple countries, right? Which that's incredible to think about that, right?
Right.
To know that, like, I'm on the phone call with a client that lives in Utah, and then an hour later, I'm on a phone call with a guy that lives in Queensland, Australia. It's like, what's going on here, right? And so that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like you have so much opportunity if you just aren't afraid to find out what's on the other side of your fear.
Yeah, for sure. I like what you said, the low barrier to entry, because I tell people all the time, like I have a few more subscriptions than that because I have like some streaming software and video editing software and a couple other things. But my operating costs are less than $500 a month. Like,
right.
And that's with $130 a month cell phone bill figured
Correct.
into that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, so can you imagine that? It's like, that's what I tell people. It's like a very low barrier to entry. And the thing is like Chris said, if something doesn't go the way that you want it to go, I'm not saying this to be rude, but the average person nowadays, because they're bombarded with so much information because of technology and social media, most people don't remember what they ate for lunch yesterday, right? So if Chris Hennessy is the podcast So I Did a Thing guy, and then 3 weeks from now he's the podcast guy that totally changes, now he's doing Pilates, right? I had to. I'm not that you would, but my
fat ass would be.
But I couldn't resist.
Yeah, right.
But the point is that nobody would remember, right? And so that's the thing. It's like, stop worrying so much about like what other people are going to think or about what didn't work out. And if you really feel passionate about something, just keep going.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Hi from Cahill. Hi, Cahill. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us. That's her son, Julie's son, Cahill.
Nice.
Yep. So in 10 months, you already have clients.
Oh, yeah. I think I've coached, let me think. I think like over like 30 plus clients, I think, in 10 months.
Yeah, but you didn't get that way just in those 10 months. It was the year and a half, 2 years before that.
There you go, big man. That's the key, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, I think, I'm sure this is the case in most industries, but what I'm starting to find out now is obviously the content you put out, the relationships you build, in the comments and the DMs, whatever, right? Like all of that is so important. But what I'm starting to find out even more so, and I had no idea this would be the case on social, because it was the case when I was still practicing as a surgeon. What it is now is it's all these clients that I've coached already that have had these incredible transformations. And now these people are going out and they're saying, hey man, look, like I worked with this guy, right? Like they're telling their friends and their colleagues and their coworkers, and they're telling people at their church, people they play pickleball with. And so that is the power of LinkedIn. Is it's like you get these clients and they have this great result. And yeah, the testimonials that people put on my page is great, but they run their mouth, right? And they go and they tell people, people in person, like, this guy's no quack, he's legit, he's for real, right? Like this stuff really works. And those are the referrals where when that person drops into my DM, it's like, I just send them an invoice, right? Like they're already sold.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Because you can put all the content out there in the world, you can resonate, you can build relationships. But how much more weight do you carry when somebody says, hey, go talk to this person?
Right. It's crazy. And I know he's probably a mutual, how do I say this? You know, he's probably a mutual connection of ours, or probably someone that you know really well. But Aslan Allen, I know you know him probably, right? Like
I
he,
think so.
yeah. So he was in the military, posts a lot on LinkedIn. You know, he wrote me this incredible review the other day. And he's really well respected guy on LinkedIn, and posts, you know, he's written a couple books. He's written a children's book, super nice guy. And he sent this great recommendation out, dropped it on my wall. And then I post, you know, I did a quick testimonial post. And of course, those posts, LinkedIn, I'm watching you, they bury those posts. I know they do, right? Because they can tell what it is. But the funny thing is that even though that post didn't perform super, super well, that post got me conversations, it got me
Yep.
leads, it got right. So that's the
Yep.
thing. It's like the power of word of mouth is incredible here on LinkedIn. It's wild. I was blown away.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Let me say hi to Morgan, because Morgan, her daughter, said hi. Hi, Morgan. Thanks for watching. All right.
I wonder if
that word.
I wonder if this is the same Julie Griffin. Is this she's on LinkedIn, right? She's an MBA. Is this the same? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yep,
I'm just not
that's
on
her.
YouTube,
Same one.
so I figured. Yeah, she's awesome. She's great. Hi, Julie.
Yeah, she's on mobile probably, and
Okay.
LinkedIn Live on mobile is just absolutely terrible. You got
Trash.
to have like either really great Wi-Fi signal or really strong cell phone service, and it's absolute trash.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's funny too. I remember. I don't want to dwell on this, but someone on LinkedIn that's got a big presence that does a lot of LinkedIn audios and a lot of LinkedIn lives. I asked them. I said, why do you think LinkedIn doesn't promote their own audio events, their own live events? Why do you think that these posts where it says like make a post and then that post gets like no traction? Why do you think that is? Like, wouldn't they want to promote those events on their platform? And he said, I think there's two reasons. He goes, one of them is they know that people are restreaming those other places, so they don't like that. And he said the other reason is that you and I are live right now, right? So since we're live, we could be talking about politics, the border. We could talk about whatever we wanted, and it cannot be censored. It can't be, you know, regulated. And so I think a lot of it too is like it's higher risk for me and you to be talking here live where they can't shut it down right away versus if I make a post and it's something really, really salacious, which I wouldn't do that. When they scan that, they could pull that post right away and just delete that post, right?
Right.
But when you and I are live, they can't really do that unless people are like reporting what's going on. So I think a lot of it just has to. I think a lot of it has to do with like we can't really be monitored right now with what we're doing.
Because they're always watching.
Because they're always watching.
Oh, Billy G is always watching.
Correct. But I mean, but if you think about it, like I have to think about these types of things because as I'm starting my newsletter finally, as I'm starting to do a lot more live and audio events, I think to myself, where should I position myself to do these? Because I have such an engaged community and such a large following on LinkedIn. But even when I post about I have an audio event coming up, I mean that post just tanks, right? So it's like where do I put that? Do I do YouTube shorts? Do I go somewhere different? You know, but it's hard for me because this community has been so good to me. I want to stay here.
I know. Yep, same, exact same. And it's really sad, like the events that they don't do great, you have to go in and manually invite people so they know you're doing it.
Yeah.
And that is not an easy process either. You have to go in.
No.
I mean, you can click all, but it's still it's very clunky. It's very clunky. So they don't make it easy. Hi, Ann. I see you there.
No, they don't.
There you, man. Yep. Then I forgot where I was going with that. I got derailed. Oh yeah, it's just clunky. They don't make it easy. Yeah, it's so easy, and especially with comments. I squirrel out on the comments so hard.
Oh yeah, no, me too. It's like if I had a nut for every time I squirreled out, I'd be, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's our Texas coming out. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. So tell me what. All right, so you're a performance coach. Like, how do you help people? Like, what is your
Yeah, this
What
is
is your
good.
pitch?
Yeah, this is really good. So I would tell you, I think how do I say this? So the easiest way for me to explain to people what I do is, I spent a long time in my life being successful by what everybody else's standards were, um, but not really having any fulfillment in my life, right? And so I truly think that like being successful without fulfillment is truly like the ultimate failure. And so what I help people do is figure out where they are in their life and what they're trying to do, and I help them basically go from this idea of, and this is where I get really passionate. And so it's like everybody has seen these ultimate survival guides, right, that are out there. Well, I like to flip that on its script and say, why are we surviving in life when we really could be
Mm-hmm.
thriving, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so what
For
I like
sure.
to do is I like to help people from a holistic approach of mental, physical, and emotional, because I really think that any of those in and of itself is really not enough. And so what I do is help people tap into that inner being that they are and capitalize on those three foundations: mental, physical, and emotional, and truly live their life in a state of thriving instead of just getting by every day, right? It doesn't matter
Right.
how much money you make, what title you have behind your name. It doesn't matter what school you graduated from. All of us can truly live a life that we're meant to live. It's just you have to know how.
Hmm. I love it. I like the difference between thriving and surviving. It's huge. Because
It really is.
why would you want to just survive? Like you
Well,
said, why would
it's
you want to just do that?
why would you want to do that? And here's the thing: some people will say, they start to pull this whole thing, right? And I'm not targeting anybody, but they say, oh, my job sucks, my boss is terrible, my wife hates me, the world is out to get me. Every time I try to go to church, I show up late because I get every red light. It's like, no, right? Stop the victim mentality, stop the
Mm-hmm.
negativity.
Yep.
Understand that there is truly no perfect situation in the world. There really isn't. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is how you perceive, react, and respond to the external environment, right? And so you could be in the worst possible financial space that there possibly is, right? Whatever it may be. And in that particular space, you can still tap into joy, because joy is internal and happiness is external, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to pause for a minute and address what Ann said, right? She asked if there's a spiritual component. And I would say I never talk about the spiritual or the religious component when I mention those three things. And the reason that is because for me, I was raised in a very small family on a working ranch, and religion was a very forefront and center part of my life, and still is. And so is, the spiritual world. Nature, as Chris knows, is a big part of my life. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's like the physical world, the physical body, your mentality, and your emotions, all three of those things sit on the foundation of the higher power, right? So for me, it's like I don't even talk about that because nowadays it can be such a triggering point. And so for me, what I do is when I work with clients, if they want to bring in, the higher spirit, if they want to bring in nature or religion, I'm always accepting and I always work on that with them. But for me personally, I never lead with that, only because for me, that is what everything else is built on.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I just wanted to address that.
Sure. Absolutely. So in addressing all these things and kind of getting all these things to line up, it kind of brings some clarity, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So okay. So I'm so glad you said that. So, and you might be baiting me, which is good. I love when you. So we're both hunters and fishers. So I love when you bait me. So I did a post recently that was a poll, and it did really well. And the premise of this was that there's people out there, whether you call them thinkers or doers. A lot of people will have this understanding that they have to plan, they have to have this idea or this concept of where they're going and how they're going to get there. And I would tell you that that is totally untrue. In life, I'm not telling you to go out there and just wing it for everything that you do. What I'm telling you is that 100% of the time, if you are unclear on where you're going, you're unclear on what you're supposed to be doing. If you take
Mm-hmm.
action, even if it's something really small, if it's one thing, you will find clarity after action. It never comes before action, right? And so
Right.
people will say, well, that's hogwash. How is that possible? I tell them, think about this analogy. If you're driving in a car and you're driving in really heavy fog and the visibility is only 10 feet, you can only see 10 feet in front of you, but the place that you're trying to go is 20 feet away. The only way you can see 20 feet away is if you take action and you drive 10 feet, because now you can see 10, now you can see 10 more feet. And so that was, I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's in order to help someone find clarity in their life, or if you want to find clarity yourself, I will tell you right now, whatever you do when you go to sleep tonight, just remind yourself when you wake up in the morning, that one thing that you've been wanting to do, but you keep telling yourself it's too hard and you don't know how because you're not clear. Just do that thing in the morning and you'll find clarity afterwards.
I like it. Because you're not going to get I mean, even if it's not clear now, the clarity will come.
Correct.
Once you kind of get in the sticks and start weeding and waiting and getting in the thick of it, you'll start seeing the things you couldn't see before.
100%. So I've read lots of different, articles and research papers and this and that, right? That's what I do. I like study people's brain. And so if you think about it, a lot of people that are innovators for really big companies, right? Like, the people that are the Warren Buffetts, the Elon Musk, the Steve Jobs that have created some technological product. They've asked people like Elon Musk, like, how in the heck did you come up with this idea of Starlink? Or how did you come up with this concept of like the SpaceX rocket, right? It's never been designed before. How did you do that? And what they say is they had this concept of like the product that they wanted to create in their mind, right? But they had no clarity on like, how do I create a satellite that can get internet anywhere in the world? How do I do that? You know what they did? They had the idea and then they just started working. They just said, I can figure this out. And what happens is your brain is really good at reverse engineering the process. That is one thing your brain is really good at. If you give a human being something and you tell them, here's a pen, make this pen, they can figure out how to make it. But if you don't give it to them and you just say, make a pen, it's very hard. We need something tangible first, right? And so the brain is really good at reverse engineering once you start taking action. But if you never take action, you get no clarity and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep complaining about why you get the same results, which are crap. And the reason that is because you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
great ideas with no implementation will get you nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah. I love it, man. So if you were going to give somebody one takeaway for being successful or growing your network or whatever terminology you want to use on LinkedIn, what would it be?
Yeah, this is great. So I would tell people, if you truly want to build a presence and build the network on or off LinkedIn, it's going to sound really simple and really basic, and it is. And that's why I'm going to tell you this. It's 100% whatever you do, whenever you're doing something for someone else, you truly want to do that with absolutely no strings attached. And that means that even if you're in sales, right? Like, did I come onto this show tonight to maybe get some potential clients? Well, yeah, of course I did.
Sure.
Did I come here only for that? Absolutely not. I mean, I could be doing anything that I wanted right now. I wanted to help out Chris because he's a really good friend of mine. And so I came here with my main intention being, what can I do to help Chris's show get more exposure? What can I do to help Chris get, and connect with his audience? And so I think that anything that you do in life, if every time you make a decision or every time you take an action, you're doing that for someone else's benefit first, you will never go wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself first, right? Perfect example. Most people have been on an airplane. They know the cliche thing. You put your own oxygen mask on first, right? Of course. That's where I come in. I teach people how mentally, physically, and emotionally to take care of yourself first. And the reason I teach people that is so that you can ultimately show up better for other people, right? So if your main purpose in life is to be your best self so that you can serve others without any attachment, that is the best way to live. And so I think if you approach LinkedIn like that, if you approach life like that, if you approach your relationships like that, your life will truly transform when you come from a place of service above all else. And that doesn't mean that you don't serve yourself. It means that you put yourself in the best possible shape to serve other people, because when they achieve, ultimately you achieve also.
For real. For sure, for sure, for sure. I love that. And, I don't say it to toot my own horn, but I give a lot of stuff away too. Like you do. I want to see people succeed. If they want a live stream, but they don't have a budget to hire a producer, I will get on a 30-minute call and run through Restream in 30 minutes with them. And then let them, I don't do all of it, but I show them the ropes. You know what I mean? Like because I want to see people succeed. I want to see people live streaming. If it's something that they feel like they want to do, but they're scared to do it, then I'm all for trying to help someone get started, even if they can't afford to hire me as a producer or a coach.
Absolutely. Because ultimately at the end of the day, like that person, right? It's like that old saying, right? Like no doesn't mean never, and it's like, just because that person may not be in the position right now to be able to do that, it really means that at some point, if you do them the right way, then, and even if you do, look, here's the other thing, right? Is the whole serving without attachment. Even if you're the guy, right? Chris is such a generous, gracious, and kind man. Even if you do those things and nothing ever comes full circle, that's okay. You have to be able to let go of that too, right? There's the no strings attached and serving without attachment. And if most people in our society could learn those two things, no attachments and no strings attached, I'm telling you right now, man, this would be one incredible place. And that's my mission is to keep working and getting more people to realize that.
Yeah, 100%. When the Bible says, give and it will be given unto you. Now, if I help you out with something and don't charge you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to come back full circle and help me, but it could mean somebody else God's going to put in my path.
Correct. And I think, they're very true. And there's Jesus talked about this, and so did a lot of ancient philosophers. And they talked about this concept of not thinking in life that if you lost a job or something happened to you, that something was taken away from you, that what we really should do is come from the mindset of it was that I gave it back, right? And so think about that, right? Think about that. Like if in your life, you were out there and something just really didn't go your way, right? And you thought to yourself, instead of going right to the fact that this person took this from me, but you thought about it, you know what? And I thought about this really when my dad passed away. It was like, I used to think to myself, like, he was taken from me too young. My dad was way too young to die. He was taken away. And then I thought to myself, you know what? But I was never actually the one who brought him here. Someone else brought him here. He was given to me. And so what happened was he wasn't taken away. He was given back. Right. And so that to me, it's that, oh, I love Gabe. It's that trading. Gabe's a good guy. It's that trading expectation for appreciation, right? That's a big, powerful thing.
Yep, it is. Gabe and Yvette are going to be on the show in March, I think. I have to look at the calendar. Yeah, they're going to be on the show. Yeah. It's not a season of So I Did a Thing if Gabe didn't come on at least once. And I'm just lucky enough this time Yvette's going to be there with us. So that's going to be going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Man, we are getting close to time. Any last, you just dropped a hell of a truth bomb on us, but any last parting words you want to leave with us here before we go?
I would just tell everybody that if you truly are feeling, stuck, or like there's some obstacle or something that you can't overcome, or you just have like this feeling in your life that things are like good, but there has to be more. The answer to all of those things is you can figure out what's next. You don't have to live that way. And the key is this: don't be too proud, and don't feel like if you ask for help that it's a weakness or it's a sign of failure. I wasted 20 years of my life thinking I could do it all on my own. I read every book. I watched every podcast. I bought every course. I made tons of money. and I thought I had it all figured out. And the second that I let my ego go, I became vulnerable and I reached out to ask somebody for help. My life got infinitely better. So if there's
Yeah.
anything that I can leave you guys with, whether it's me or somebody else, just know that if you work with someone who's been there before and you get support and you have accountability, that person can help you take decades and turn them into days.
Yes. And I'm sure you can attest to this just as much as anybody, basically, because you just said it. But, you know, being successful and making all the money in the world, they say money can't buy happiness. And like you said, it didn't. You were doing great. You were a doctor, doing all the things, but just miserable on the inside.
Big time. Yep. Yep. Like the duck swimming on a pond, right? Looks good on the surface, but underneath you're doing one of these
He's
numbers.
just getting it, boy.
You're just getting it. Yeah. And here's the thing, like it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't matter if the success and the money and all that stuff is there. If you really feel like you have, if there's just like that inkling that like something's missing, or you're trying to fill some empty hole, or like you're just wondering why is everything the way that it is, just reach out to someone, because I've been there and I can tell you that it gets better. It takes work, but it gets better.
Yeah, it does take work. You can't just say you're, like we said earlier, you can't just make the decision you're going to do something and then not do it. You got to do it.
Correct. You have to do it.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, y'all go connect with Brian if you're not connected with him already. I know he'd love to connect with you and add you to his network. Ring his bell, all that good stuff. Brian, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast. It's been a while.
You bet, Chris. Thank you so much. I'm glad you reached out, and yeah, I love it. I hope your audience got something out of it, and thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Y'all have a good week. I'll be back next week with Tanya Bugby. She is a coach for real estate agents. She was also my very, very ever first paying client. Almost 2 years ago now. So she's going to come on. I'm sure we'll talk about live streaming, but I really don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll probably just hang out and have fun. Those are the best conversations. So anyway, that's my guest next week. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all then.